Dave Winfield, the 33rd African-American elected to Baseball's Hall of Fame. Dave, Jackie was a four-sport star at UCLA. Baseball is actually his worst sport. You were drafted in the NBA, the NFL, and Major League Baseball. Played a lot of sports. Why'd you choose baseball?
It's what I started when I was young, and it was readily available, and it was pretty seamless for me. It didn't cost money to play, and it was just close by, and I just kept on playing. I love the other sports, but I stayed with baseball because I played it most of my life. And when I grew up, it was the #1 sport in America. The other sports weren't really considered.
In what ways did Jackie Robinson, what you saw of him, what you heard of him, what you learned from him, in what ways did he influence you as a ball player?
Well, playing baseball, you always know about Jackie Robinson because not only was he a great player, but he enabled people that looked just like me to be able to play this game. So he changed the sport, something that I loved, and he was part of changing America. So I never got a chance to meet him, but as a baseball player, I had to know who he was. He wasn't written about in the history books yet, but we all knew Jackie Robinson.
Speaking of history books, you've just had a book that came out, Dropping the Ball, Baseball's Troubles and How We Must Solve Them. Chapter 4 deals with the last black Major League player. What do you mean by that?
Well, when I wrote this book, long before, the discussion of it, and it's only one chapter in my book, but if you go from Jackie Robinson to 28% when I was playing in 1975, down to 8% today, gone unchecked or not addressed, in 10 years, follow the trend line, there'll be one player left.
Why is that? Why are so many African Americans going away from playing baseball?
It's complex. There's not one thing. It's the confluence of events in our society that all happened at the same time. If we want to go into them, it used to be readily available in schools, and it was continuous. It didn't cost money. I call it the 3 C's. There's continuity. Is there that continuity? No. That where it was free and you can keep playing until you're drafted. The cost, it used to be free. Now if you want to get on the good track to continue to play, it costs you money. And so we have, like I said, continuity, cost, and competition is the other one. When I grew up, it wasn't NFL, it wasn't NBA, it wasn't extreme sports, it wasn't soccer. Now these are on the landscape. Baseball had it all to itself. It no longer does.
All right, we appreciate the knowledge. Thank you very much, Dave Winfield. To his point, Jackie Robinson, a great baseball player. John Roseboro, Roy Campanella Jr., great catchers in the Dodger organization. There is not a single American-born black catcher in baseball right now. There's only one black catcher in Canada, from Canada, John. Jackie Robinson, the first African-American player elected to Baseball's Hall of Fame. Joining us now, Dave Winfield, the 33rd African-American player elected to the Hall of Fame. 60 years ago, Jackie broke baseball's color barrier, and it's interesting, 60 years later, our country still, this week in the headlines, 2 stories where a large part of them deals with race as an issue. What is the Don Imus situation? What does that say about where we've come in race relations, Dave?
Wow. 60 years ago, you could say that, you could think it, and you can get away with it. It says you can't do it anymore. And so you can stop people from saying things, but you may not be able to prevent them from thinking that. So, but still, they went through their situation, accepted apologies and all that, but times have changed where people used to do that all the time.
Times have changed in the baseball field, too. Jackie Robinson was the first. When you played, you told me there was 28% African-American players in Major League Baseball. What's the percentage now, and why do you think it has gotten so low?
It's 8% today. It's a combination of things. I mentioned to you earlier, there's so many factors, but I put them under the categories of 3 C's: competition, continuity, and cost. And if you talk about competition, you're talking about external things. Football wasn't a big thing 40 years ago. 2 generations ago, other sports began to creep in, up to extreme sports today. Continuity, you can't go to play free baseball all the way up till you get drafted on a quality scale with serious competition and think you're going to make it to the big leagues. Now, probably 30% of playing ball, you have to pay to play, club ball and such. Kids that don't have money can't afford it. So I'm just putting many of these factors that, again, competition, continuity, and the competition. Cost. And so there's many more things that fit under that category, but that I don't want to simplify this because it's many factors and many areas. It didn't take one thing to bring it. It's kind of the confluence of all these events, social and economic, over the past 40 years. It's come to the point where people look around and say, I didn't expect that. Kind of like that nor'easter. I didn't expect that. But truly, that's what it is. Even African Americans 15 years ago couldn't tell you that they would be declining like this.
You know, you said before that you have a fear that your son, and you mentioned it in a book that you just wrote, will be the last black major league player. How strong, how realistic is that fear?
Well, no, I just look at it as in 10 years, if this trend, and we're only talking about African Americans, my book talks about all of baseball, why we don't take our eye off the ball because we'll drop it. We still have time to pick it up. I'm just saying if the trend goes unabated for 10 more years, you have one person left, one African American. And I'm just saying, so how's that going to affect the fans, the money that comes to the game, the true lovers, the people that love the game, and also the talent pool? You won't see those Joe Morgans. You won't see those Willie Mays. You won't 5 tool players. They won't be around.
What do you say to the people? And there are people who say this. Well, what does it really matter? What does it really matter that there are fewer and fewer blacks playing baseball? What do you say to them?
Yeah, well, again, when I talk about my book, I'm talking about all of baseball, and so I'm not even going to just focus on one aspect. We're talking about now because of Jackie Robinson. I was aware of the trend before that. Everybody now talking about Jackie Robinson and African Americans, but if you're one of the leaders of this game, you'd say, let's not miss that talent pool, and let's not miss all those fans. If you're talking about it means money, bottom line, you ought to keep your eye on the ball. Don't drop it. And if you're looking for talent, don't lose it either. It's good to go overseas. It's good to be international. This is a game for everybody. There's a lot of good players here, too.
For a guy who was drafted by the NBA, the NFL, and Major League Baseball, 3,110 career hits and 465 career home runs, and you got to put that Hoff in front of him. Hall of Famer Dave Winfield. John and Joe, not a bad career.
Thanks, Stuart, and many thanks to Dave Winfield. That was very enjoyable. And
yeah. And Dave, I've read portions of his book, and obviously he understands the situation, and it's great. I mean, that someone is willing to, go out on a limb and go around the country and talk about this situation.